4 a.m. Isfahan, Iran, the high-security zone surrounding the regime's nuclear core. The S-300 radar array is spinning. It is supposed to see everything from 150 miles away. Suddenly, the radar screen goes white out. 10,000 fake targets bloom across the display at once. The S-300 radar is looking for a fleet of bombers that don't exist. While the radar spins in circles, something real is approaching. A single Blue Sparrow standoff missile is screaming through the atmosphere at 2,300 miles per hour. The distance closes, 20 miles. The S-300 attempts to reset. The screen stays white, 5 miles. Right now, the most advanced defense system in the Middle East is staring at a blank wall of digital snow while a kill shot is less than 8 seconds away. The countdown hits 0. The radar screen goes from blinding white to total black, total silence, and the world is about to find out that the heart of Iran is wide open. To understand how a billion-dollar defense system goes blind, we have to wind the clock back 30 minutes before that Blue Sparrow ever crossed the border. 3:30 a.m. The air over Isfahan is usually silent, but tonight, the Iranian air defense network begins to see ghosts. Across the province, long-range search radars begin to pick up faint, flickering returns. They look like drones. They move at the speed of drones. The Iranian commanders expect a repeat of their own massive attack on Israel, but the targets aren't behaving like physical objects. They appear, move at impossible speeds, and then vanish. Far out over the Persian Gulf, a US Navy EA-18G Growler is creating digital copies of aircraft where there are none. The Iranian radar is being fed a fake version of reality. It's like looking into a mirror and seeing 5 different versions of yourself, none of which are real. The operators have to decide, which one do we shoot at? To find the real threat, the Iranian defense network has to turn its own radars to maximum power. That is exactly what the trap requires. By turning the power up, the Iranians are essentially screaming their location into the dark. The reason the Iranians are so desperate to find these ghosts is simple. Isfahan is the vault. If Tehran is the head of the regime, Isfahan is the heart. It holds the 8th Tactical Air Base and sits just miles from the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility. If a single missile gets through here, the regime's nuclear ambitions burn. At 3:45 a.m., the suspicion turns into a frantic, kinetic panic. The Iranian commanders cannot wait any longer. They assume the ghosts on their screens are a massive swarm of suicide drones. They give the order to fire. The ground around Isfahan physically shakes. Massive canisters on the back of transport trucks swing upward. The S-300 launch sequence initiates. The S-300 radar array, the gravestone, a $100 million Russian-made eye, is the crown jewel of Iran's defense. With a roar that can be heard for miles, the 4-8 N-6E2 interceptor missiles erupt from their tubes. One missile launches, then another, then 4 more. The 4-8 N-6E2 missiles scream toward the coordinates provided by the gravestone radar. They reach the intercept point, their proximity fuses trigger, and they explode in massive balls of fragmentation and fire. The sky over Isfahan lights up like midday, but there is no debris. There are no falling wings. There is no secondary explosion. The million-dollar missiles just hit empty air. Every time an Iranian missile launches, a slot in their defense disappears. They are using up their best ammunition to kill digital hallucinations. While the Iranian launchers are reloading, the gravestone radar dish is spinning at its maximum rate. It is pumping out massive amounts of heat and energy, trying to burn through the snow on the screens. And that is when the EA-18G Growler in the distance changes its tune. The digital ghosts suddenly vanish. The radar screens go clear for a split second. Now that the Iranian interceptors have been wasted and the radar is hot and exposed, the real killer is finally allowed to enter the room. The Blue Sparrow is now less than 3 minutes away. While the Iranian S-300 is still recovering from the ghost attack, the real executioner is already in the air. 250 miles away, a flight of Israeli F-15 heavy fighters levels off at 50,000 feet. Under the wing of the lead fighter, a massive shape shifts. This is the Blue Sparrow. The pilot in the F-15 cockpit presses a single button. The heavy steel shackles holding the Blue Sparrow snap open. For a split second, the missile just falls. It drops through the thin air like a stone, tumbling away from the jet's belly. Then the computer takes over. The Blue Sparrow is a standoff missile. This means the Israeli jets never have to enter Iranian airspace. They can shoot from the parking lot and hit the front door. The Iranians are looking for jets on their radar, but the jets are hundreds of miles away, safe behind the horizon. The missile reaches the edge of space, arcing high over the border. It knows exactly where the 8th Tactical Air Base is because it has memorized the shape of the mountains around Isfahan. But the S-300 isn't dead yet. As the Blue Sparrow begins its long, screaming dive toward the target, the Iranian radar finally manages to filter out the electronic noise from the US EA-18G Growler. The gravestone radar dish sends out a massive invisible beam of energy, searching the sky. Inside the missile, a tiny sensor detects that radar beam. The Blue Sparrow knows it has been spotted. Instead of panicked maneuvering, the missile does something cold and calculated. It adjusts its flight path by just a few degrees. It is now riding the Iranian radar beam. Every pulse of energy the S-300 sends out to find the missile is actually acting like a lighthouse, guiding the killer straight to the source. The distance is closing, 100 miles. The Iranian crew sees a single tiny dot on their screen. It is moving faster than anything they have ever seen. They realize this is a carrier killer class projectile. They prepare to fire their last remaining interceptors. The launchers begin to rotate. The massive canisters hiss as the hydraulic pressure builds. The world is seconds away from a Mach 6 collision in the upper atmosphere. But the Iranians are only looking up. They have no idea that the real threat is already inside the fence. While the Blue Sparrow is screaming down from the heavens, a completely different kind of weapon is waking up just 3 miles from the base. In a quiet industrial lot on the outskirts of Isfahan, 3 small black shapes rise into the air. They are off-the-shelf quadcopters, the kind you can buy at a hobby shop, but they have been modified. Each one carries a 3-pound shaped charge, a specialized explosive designed to punch through 6 inches of solid steel. They are flying under the radar, literally. The S-300 is designed to track high-flying jets and fast missiles. It is physically incapable of seeing a plastic drone flying 10 feet above the power lines. While the most expensive defense system in the world is looking at the horizon for a massive attack, these tiny toys are coming from the neighborhood next door. It's like a castle with massive walls being taken down by a termite from the inside. The drones reach the perimeter fence of the 8th Tactical Air Base. They head straight for the gravestone radar van. The radar van is a trailer packed with millions of dollars of delicate computers and cooling units. Without it, the missile launchers are just expensive tubes of metal. The first drone hovers for a split second, its camera locking onto the massive cooling vents on the side of the radar van. These vents are the only thing keeping the system from melting down under the heat of its own power. The drone lunges. It flies directly into the spinning intake fan. Crack! The plastic rotors of the drone shatter, but the explosive charge triggers. A jet of molten copper screams through the cooling unit, severing the refrigerant lines and shredding the main power trunk. The second drone follows immediately. It hits the gravestone antenna itself. It slams into the delicate phase shifters, the thousands of tiny elements that allow the radar to steer its beam. Think of the radar dish like a giant eye. The drone just threw a handful of sand directly into its pupil. The giant is still standing, but he is now clutching his face, unable to see the fist coming for his jaw. The third drone hits the secondary power generator. The ground around the S-300 battery is now a chaos of black smoke and screaming alarms. The gravestone antenna, which was just seconds away from locking onto the incoming Blue Sparrow, suddenly seizes. The motors that turn the dish grind to a halt with a deafening screech of metal on metal. The Iranian crew is now blind, deaf, and helpless. They look at their manual backup scopes. They see the Blue Sparrow is now only 20 miles away. At 2,300 miles per hour, 20 miles is nothing. It is a heartbeat. The Iranian commanders try to fire their interceptors manually, but the link is dead. The drones have severed the nervous system of the battery. The missiles stay in their tubes, useless. High above, the Blue Sparrow senses that the radar beam it was following has disappeared. It has already memorized the last known coordinate of that beam. It switches from beam riding mode to terminal optical mode. The missile adjusts its fins. To the people on the ground, it sounds like the sky is being unzipped. The S-300 operators have exactly 4 seconds of life left. The Blue Sparrow penetrates the reinforced roof of the van, travels through the main computer bank, and buries itself 3 feet into the concrete pad beneath the vehicle before the warhead detonates. The $100 million crown jewel of the Iranian regime is vaporized. The gravestone antenna is tossed into the air like a piece of scrap paper, glowing red hot as it disintegrates. When the Blue Sparrow warhead detonates, it releases a pressure wave that travels faster than the speed of sound through the airbase. The steel frame of the radar van is peeled back like a tin can, but the real chaos happens 3 seconds later. The S-300 battery still has 648N 6E2 Interceptor missiles sitting in their vertical launch tubes. When the heat from the main explosion reaches them, the canisters cook off. One by one, the massive missiles ignite while they are still trapped inside their steel tubes. The rockets are spinning wildly across the concrete pad like 1,000-pound firecrackers. They smash into parked fuel trucks and support vehicles, turning the entire defensive site into a graveyard of burning Russian steel. A secondary explosion from a fuel depot sends a mushroom cloud of black smoke 500 feet into the air. Through the fire, you can see the empty space where the gravestone radar once stood. There is nothing left but a blackened crater and twisted cooling pipes. The 8th Tactical Air Base is still there, but it is effectively dead. Without that radar, the anti-air guns have nothing to aim at. The remaining missiles have no eyes to guide them. While the smoke clears over Isfahan, the real message is being read 1,000 miles away in the Pentagon and in the bunkers of Tehran. Cruising beneath the surface of the Arabian Sea is an Ohio-class guided missile submarine. Inside its hull are 154 BGM-109 Tomahawk cruise missiles. If Israel used a scalpel to cut out the S-300's eyes, the US Navy is a sledgehammer designed to level the entire house. The US doesn't fire one missile at a radar site. They would fire 50 BGM-109 Tomahawk missiles at once. They would flood the sky until the Iranian computers simply couldn't count fast enough. Even if the S-300 worked perfectly, it would run out of ammunition long before the US ran out of missiles. In a full-scale Day Zero strike, the US wouldn't just send cruise missiles. They would send the AGM-88 HARM. The moment an Iranian commander turns on a radar to see what's coming, the AGM-88 HARM detects that signal and dives on it. It doesn't matter if the commander turns the radar off. The missile has already memorized the location. It is a turn-it-on-and-die weapon. The U.S. has enough BGM-109 Tomahawk missiles within range of Iran right now to hit every single air defense site, every command bunker, and every power plant in the country in under an hour. Now here is the question that should keep the regime's generals awake tonight. What if the Iranian commander at Isfahan had made a different choice? What if, the moment the ghosts appeared on his screen, he had ordered a total blackout, turning off every radar and every radio on the base? If the gravestone radar had stayed dark, the Blue Sparrow would have lost its lighthouse. The missile would have been forced to rely on its internal maps. It would have been less accurate. Maybe it would have missed the radar van and hit an empty patch of sand. But think about the trap. If the radar is off, the sky is wide open. While the Iranians are sitting in the dark, trying to hide, a flight of F-35 stealth jets could be 10 miles away, and the Iranians would never know. By turning the radar off to save the system, they would have invited an even bigger disaster. That is the nightmare of modern air defense. Turn the radar on and a Blue Sparrow kills you. Turn it off and the stealth jets walk right through the front door. There was no right move. The moment the S-300 was targeted, it was already over. The only question left is, where will the next ghost appear? And will the regime even have a radar left to see it?
The conflict has escalated drastically tonight as the United States launched a major wave of military strikes inside Iranian territory, triggering immediate vows of crushing retaliation from Tehran and plunging the region into a dangerous new phase. The situation remains highly volatile as both sides exchange heavy military blows. Major strategic developments. U.S. strikes deep inside Iran. Under the direction of President Donald Trump, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, launched a massive series of self-defense strikes at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Trump confirmed that 49 Tomahawk cruise missiles targeted installations across Iran, some striking as close as 40 miles (64 kilometers) from the capital, Tehran. U.S. fighter jets are actively operating over Iran, targeting radar and air defense networks. The catalyst, the direct U.S. military action, follows the downing of an American Apache attack helicopter in the region overnight. President Trump cited this incident as the legal and military justification for the strikes. Tehran's counterstrike, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Aerospace Force and Navy, immediately retaliated with a two-wave operational strike, targeting 18 key installations at bases hosting U.S. forces in the region. Iraqi media reports indicate that Iran launched missile strikes directly hitting the U.S. Al-Haria Air Base in Erbil, allegedly destroying a U.S. radar system. Strait of Hormuz closed. In a massive escalation for global energy markets, the IRGC has issued an official statement announcing the total closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Geopolitical shockwaves and ground realities, target zones and casualties. Explosions have rocked multiple critical locations across Iran, primarily focusing on its southern coast and strategic maritime areas. Bandar Abbas, major southern port city. Keshem and Kish Islands, strategic locations in the Strait of Hormuz. Sirik, Minab, Gorgan and central Isfahan, western Tehran, where air defense systems were heavily activated. Iran's Red Crescent has placed all emergency operations centers across the country on full alert. Regional spillover. The strikes have sent shockwaves across the Gulf. Air raid sirens have sounded in Bahrain, prompting the country's interior ministry to issue urgent alerts instructing citizens to remain calm and head to the nearest safe places. The diplomatic disconnect. A fierce war of words has broken out over whether any back-channel communication is occurring. The U.S. claim. President Trump stated to U.S. media that top Iranian officials called him directly to plead for an end to the bombing. He issued a strict ultimatum. If Tehran does not sign the agreement put forward by U.S. negotiators, the U.S. will bomb them again tomorrow night. The Iranian denial, reporting directly from Tehran, Al Jazeera correspondents confirmed that Iranian media and officials have categorically denied Trump's claim, calling the phone call allegation, quote, completely false. The Joint Military Headquarters insists there is no talk of negotiations, only preparations for decisive defense.